All right, good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, June 30th, 8 p.m. my time. Today, what we have is the daily candle close, the monthly candle close, okay, which as you can see, we now have started a new monthly, and we have a quarterly candle close. So what we're going to do is we're going to review all the things associated with these larger time frame closes and how that sets us up for the next foreseeable few weeks, few months of the market. So first, we got to start off with the daily, right? Let's do a quick recap. Where are we on the daily time frame? And then we'll go down from there, okay? Or rather, go up in time frames from there. So first thing that I'd like to do is go back to our larger chart that I had made on the daily time frame, and I told y'all that here's a couple of things that we were dealing with. First of all, we had a big head and shoulders here. This was a clear Wyckoff distribution that was building. Once we started to see the breakdown after the neckline right here on the right shoulder, the Wyckoff distribution was confirmed, and we sold off basically since the middle of May up until even now, right? We're technically still in the midst of a sell-off. Maybe we're recovering from the sell-off, but nonetheless, we're still pretty much sitting right near the lows, and we have not broken above any key resistance levels. Now, we are making some progress. As I spoke about this morning, one of the progresses made was we had this head and shoulders pattern building, which I believe is now broken, meaning it's not confirmed that it's going to be a head and shoulders anymore, right? You could see that right shoulder, okay? That right shoulder tilted upwards and then it pushed out. Okay, this is actually a very good sign that I look forward to in the markets to show me that there's a potential bullish reversal coming. Now, bullish reversal still in context of this, right? When you have a head and shoulders building like this and it goes like this and it turns around and goes up, okay, that's good, but that doesn't mean that from here we're going to go to 60K. So what we have to do is we can say, okay, in this channel and outside of this head and shoulders, we broke outside a key trend line, which is around 34, 35K. So we're sitting above a nice area outside of this channel. Now, the next biggest resistance level that I see is this red block. See that? Resistance, resistance, okay? This was previous support, okay? And then we finally like nuked right through it. Resistance, resistance. So for the most part, we need to get back here for our first big area of resistance. And that is around $40,000 to $41,000 in this red zone. The other area of resistance is somewhere around here. It's a little tricky because the neckline is kind of tilted. And then there's multiple levels in this area that I find kind of hard to identify. But I think that if you identify a zone in here, it's probably between 47 and about 49K in this zone. Let's make that a different color. Okay. So in this zone right here. So the way to look at this is if you believe that this downtrend is over and you want to go long, well, then your stops definitely have to be below this area right here. And your first target profit is this red zone, and your next target profit is here. Once you get above this yellow zone, I'm fairly confident that this all-time high is not going to be resistance. I'm pretty sure we're going towards the 75, 100K and beyond. But obviously, we're pretty far from that, right? I mean, we're very far from that because from this high, Bitcoin actually dropped all the way about 56%. Currently, we're still down 46% from the all-time high. So we have a long way to go in terms of repairing the damage that we had in this sell-off. And the reverberations from this sell-off are still visible in the market, whether it's in Bitcoin or in the altcoin space. And I showed you all this by something as simple as Coinalyze, right? If you actually look at the open interest across the board, typically the open interest basically every single day for the last month and a half has been continuously going down. Now, why is open interest important? because it helps us identify what kind of levered positions are there in the market, what kind of actual interest is out there from the futures perspective. So for the most part, we know that if you look at this open interest, right? This is aggregated open interest. Let's go to the daily. Okay. Once we start to see the tapering off of open interest from mid-April, which is essentially the top of the Bitcoin price high, right? See right up here around April 14th, right? So when we go to here, April 14th was basically the top of the market in terms of open interest. And since then, open interest has been coming down. And this open interest can be applicable to basically the entire crypto market. The other way you can look at this open interest is by total market cap. This total market cap is about the entire crypto assets, like not just BTC, it's the market cap of everything put together: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, Cardano, and every single other altcoin that's out there. And you could see even this market cap has been coming off. So this kind of tells us that overall, the market for now is trending down. Now, we of course have found some support here in terms of the market cap, and we can make the argument that, okay, well, maybe from here we might start trending back up, but we still have a lot of damage to reverse, a lot of things to fix from the technical perspective, but also from the fundamental perspective, such as all the China FUD that happened, all the US regulation that was coming out, all the FUD from Elon, all these little things actually added up into basically the destruction of that pop this crypto bubble, if you will, right? Now, we can obviously reignite that bubble and we can start trending back up, but it takes a long time to reverse this kind of sell-off momentum. Because what happens is when you destroy the open interest like we did right here, to rebuild that open interest, it takes a certain kind of elements to come together to get people interested back into the crypto market. For example, one way to look at the market is you have to see assets across the board hitting extremely oversold levels to the point where things are just essentially extremely undervalued, right? So, for example, one thing that I look at in Ethereum is, I think everybody talks about, oh, well, ETH is down 50% from the highs. ETH is down basically 50% from the highs. But guess what? From the last May or March sell-off right here, Ethereum is still up 2,300%. That's a lot, right? That's a significant amount of appreciation in this asset that we've covered only in the span of a year. So what we want to see is the unwinding of some of those paper gains in these assets like Ethereum and Bitcoin and Cardano and Link and basically any of these altcoins that we talk about, right? These DeFi blue chips. Because what that'll do is it will push these assets back into the area of seemingly being undervalued. Right now, the market is still relatively hot, but it's coming off a very kind of blow off top period. Now, we didn't have the same kind of blow off top like we did in 2017, probably because maybe it was anticipated that we might get a blow off top and bigger funds and institutions basically front ran us. Or maybe the market has, sort of matured in a sense where, I don't know, maybe it's just not going to have the same kind of euphoria like it did back in 2017, right? That the mania cycle, I don't quite know. But the point is that we still had an immense movement from March 2020, which was the COVID crisis, to now, okay? And I believe that this unwinding is still going to happen. And I think part of that will actually be led down by BTC. Because I think there's a couple of ways crypto altcoins are going to go down further in price. Whether BTC, starts trending down further and further from here, which will ultimately drag down altcoins, or if BTC is able to start trending back up really hard, I'm hoping that will also drag down altcoins. But if BTC starts trending up, I believe that it might indicate the beginning of a new bull market. If BTC keeps trending down, then we know for sure that this current bear market is just going to be extended. And I don't think that most people are really prepared for the bear market to be further extended for the next, several months. And because I think people are not really prepared, I almost feel like it might ultimately happen. Just the dragging out of these altcoins, especially, Bitcoin leading the pack down. Now, some of that is clearly identifiable by, if we look at, say, a monthly chart, right? Okay. So the first thing that we have on the monthly chart, especially in BTC, is we had this hanging man, right? Which is a potential reversal candle, pause. Then we had a big sell-off candle right here, okay, which confirms that this was definitely a reversal and that this very well could be this trend turning around. Now, we don't really know if this trend is fully turning around or from here on up, this is the only retracement that we needed. And then from here, we're going to press higher. We just know that we had a big bearish candle right here in May. June closed as an inside bar, basically as like a hammer or doji. And now we need to see if July, which is the new monthly candle, is going to close as an inside bar, or if it's going to go down further, take out these lows right here, and maybe head down further. Now that remains to be seen. I personally still think that there might be a short squeeze somewhere in BTC over the next coming few weeks, whether it's in the month of July or maybe August. I think is going to happen. And I think this high right here is going to get taken out. After that, I don't really know. Are we going to keep trending down, or does that short squeeze give us the momentum to keep driving prices up higher? Now, you guys know very well in the advantage side, we've mostly been just sitting in cash or taking level to level trades or just shorting altcoins. And I believe shorting altcoins is probably the statistically best trade that's out there. The second best trade I would probably say is being long Bitcoin. But even being long Bitcoin, you probably have to take it level to level because, once again, in this area right here, we're still in a large range, right? This is what we've done for the last month. There's no trend in the market other than this larger, multi-month downtrend, in which case you can go short. But if you want to trade this chop, for the most part, you have to take it from level to level. Okay. Are we clear so far? Any questions so far? Okay, perfect. So what we need to do right now, real quick, is we need to map out the new monthly open candle. All right, so what we're going to do is here, that's the new monthly open. All right, let's do this, and July monthly open. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, let's, I think we can get rid of this March monthly open. We'll just keep July and June. Those are the most recent ones. All right. And May is way the heck up here. May and April are way up here. Okay. So we'll keep those monthly opens up there. So now we know contextually that we are at present moment just below the monthly open of July. You guys know very well that the one thing that we pay attention to in the markets is where's price in context of the current weekly and the current monthly open. So by tonight, for those of you who are in the Asian hours or the European session, you can pay attention to this price action because you might have some potential longing opportunities if price holds above this monthly open. If it does, guess what? The next big target is this marker right here, around $37,200, which happens to be the June monthly open. And how I would play that long trade is something like this. Stop just below this low and target profit around June monthly open. 2.3% risk for a 7% reward. Okay. Again, you want to make sure that the price can hang above this level of the July monthly open, and then it can head higher towards this 37,200 marker. Okay. Now, if you outright want to go short and you think that July is going to be a pretty crappy month and you want to just go short, well, then you could just short here, stop above this area. This is probably the most obvious stop. And then you can start targeting, levels below, right? The biggest level below is 31,000, which we found support on multiple times. And then, of course, after that is the yearly open. Now, currently, I'm not really sure if the market is actually setting up for a great shorting opportunity, to be honest. One could make the argument that because this was a nice inside candle, you technically want to go long, but then your stop has to be below this low. Okay. And then your first target profit could be this June monthly high. And then, of course, we can talk about short squeezes all the way up to about 47 to 49K, which I told y'all is this neckline right here. Okay. So you have some options, right? It's also okay to just sit tight and wait for the market to clear up. But I still think that BTC is probably the better long opportunity than, say, altcoins. I know there's talks about EIP 1559, and we have, all these things happening for Ethereum. But I got to say, historically in bear trends and in bear markets, which once again, I believe we are in a bear market, historically in bear markets, okay, fundamentals have not mattered. Like whether you have a mainnet launch, you have significant changes on the network itself, it doesn't matter. Okay, you can go back in the history of the last bear market and look that up. I still remember hundreds of these altcoins would launch, their mainnet and this and that. And yeah, maybe price would pop up here and there, but it would instantly just roll over. Right. So I'm not really finding a reason to be super excited about Ethereum, the EIP 1559, because currently we're in such a strong downtrend. And guess what? With Ethereum, this is a pretty brutal downtrend, right? Like we're still barely off the lows right here. And if we look at Ethereum weekly, monthly, quarterly, the candles are still pretty ugly. Like one of the worst things that we did here was, on a weekly basis, right? So here's our clear higher lows that Ethereum had for the last, several months. And then over here, we actually had this key higher low, but then this candle wicked below that higher low. See that wick right there? Typically, if you do something like that, that means for the most part, you've damaged the buyers who bought this and drove the price up, right? Because you basically came back to the low and quite possibly stopped out a lot of people. And if a sell-off is really hard and you see a pretty strong buying activity after that, the price rarely, if ever, visits anywhere close to that low because the buying pressure was just so darn strong. And the fact that we did that and we revisited this low once again, like this, tells me maybe it's not as strong as we may think. Maybe the bear market is stronger than we may think. And I think that's where a lot of people might be missing the idea that this might drag down further or it might drag out longer or both. Here's how the monthly candle looks on Ethereum. Pretty damn terrible, if you ask me. This was the first big indecision doji. I mean, that was already a terrible candle to begin with, but then we now had the June candle close well below this previous candle. So again, on a monthly time frame, I mean, this is a definite, defined, downtrend being created. We can make the argument that, well, this time is different and we're in a super cycle and Ethereum has EIP 1559 and the Fed keeps printing money. But okay, well, then why are prices selling off so aggressively? Why wasn't it a little bit more muted? Like, why wasn't the sell-off more muted? Why did we have to cause such a huge sell-off in open interest? Why did we have to damage the entire market cap so much? If the market was truly that strong, we didn't have to do these things, right? You can make the argument that, okay, well, we had to do that because there's too much leverage in the system and this and that. But again, with such heavy sell-offs, it's going to take a while to rebuild that momentum, right? So even if you want to go long, well, then be prepared that you have to put a stop here. Okay. On a monthly basis, you have to. Other than that, you can just say that, you know what, I think we're going to start the next leg down and the next few months are going to be kind of brutal, maybe even something like this, right? And if we have something like that, I am okay with having another, couple of months of more selling happening in the market and possibly weeding out more of the perpetually bullish people and then pushing back up. Because one of the big levels that I'm kind of looking at is this area right here that I want to retest on a monthly basis. If we get into this 1100 to 1200 area, or sorry, 1100 to about 1400 area on a monthly basis, that would be an amazing retest for Ethereum. On a monthly basis, that would be one of the best buying opportunities of a lifetime. For now, though, I don't know, right? I mean, you're pretty far away from these lows right here. And if you go long, you're probably going to have to keep your stop below these lows, which is a pretty deep stop. Let's see. There's a question in chat. Chaos says there's a little theory he has. The crypto market is so illiquid that it takes time for big players to sell out of positions, hence why the sideways. Yeah, so I would agree with that, right? One of the other things that I found really interesting about this sell-off, the magnitude of the sell-off, is I think that something was coming up on the radar that really spooked big players in the market, whether it's the whole China FUD that was going to come about or, I don't know, maybe regulation from other countries, whatever, right? I mean, they like dropped all crypto assets like they were damn hot potatoes. They didn't even put in like a efficient top where it's a distribution like this. It was just sell, 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 sell. And over here, distribution, or rather redistribution right here, sell, right? So it was very, very aggressive. And one could make the argument that this is very similar to what happened in the 2017 top in Ethereum, right? If you actually look at this sell off right here, I think it's kind of analogous to this one right here, right? I guess we have not had this kind of low. Well, actually, maybe we did, right? Like maybe Ethereum back here put in a huge low and then it popped back up and then it kept selling off. But Ethereum here, it took out just below the wick, might pop back up towards 2,500 and then keep dropping down. Now, let's get to the bullish arguments, right? Because obviously, let's get to the bullish arguments because, okay, here's the thing. We know that the markets are continuously, grinding down. There's really not a lack of There's a lack of bid in the market. We know the volumes are just completely off. I mean, it's kind of a dead market, to be honest. But what are some signs of life that we're seeing? Okay, some signs of life. Let's just say from the bullish perspective. Okay, all right. We came into a very, very key SR level, right? On a weekly basis, this is a pretty key SR level. Maybe this low was just a quick stop run, or a bullish SFP, whatever you want to call it right here. And now we're just going to resume the uptrend from here. Maybe EIP 1559, Ethereum is going to just drag the market up by itself, like the hero that it is. Maybe. Typically, though, Ethereum doesn't start bull markets. Bitcoin does. So what you want to see at the same time as Ethereum pushes up is you want to see its big brother, Bitcoin, start to press up too. And so far, like I said, one of the bullish signs was we failed out of the head and shoulders pattern. And now we're breaking outside this descending channel. Very good sign. The next sign that we want to see is break above this level. And then it's game on towards 48 and 49K. And then after that, new all-time highs, right? Those would be the bullish signs. The other bullish signs are, okay, well, what about some really good assets that, we're kind of paying attention to? So you guys know very well that some assets that I really like in the DeFi space, something like Luna, Solana, Sushi, CRV, right? All these assets, okay, are tremendous. And I believe that they are down a lot. So that means that from the all-time high right here, Luna is down currently, or is it like 70%, right? How much is it down? Yeah, 71%. That's a steep discount. If you believe in Luna, you're getting an amazing buying opportunity. Amazing. All right. Same thing with Solana. Okay. Solana is down a decent amount too. Let's check out what Solana is. Solana, from its high to where it is right now, is down about 40% or so. Again, amazing buying opportunity. So all these assets right now are actually giving you some very, very unique buying opportunities. So if you are bullish in this market and you want to buy, you shouldn't be hoping, first of all, for prices to drop further. These are your amazing buying opportunities right now. You can start scaling into your spot positions right now. And what you should say to yourself is, if you believe that in the next few months or 6 months, whatever, the assets that you want to buy into are going to be marked up higher, then every bit of a sell-off that you get in these assets, you can start dollar cost averaging down. Okay. Now, the only caveat to that is, how do you know that the asset that you're dollar cost averaging into is going to be the asset that gets marked up higher in the next cycle around, whether that's a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Because you guys know very well that from the 2018 days, that plan did not work well for a lot of people. Whether you dollar cost average down or you just held on to your altcoins, a majority of those altcoins actually did not really come back to life, right? I mean, they're still pretty much dead. Okay. So you got to ask yourself that question: what will you do if you hang on to these positions in the market? If the prices keep grinding down further and further, where is your breaking point? Where is your invalidation point? At what point will you let go? Or at what point will you stop dollar cost averaging? You have to always ask yourself in a investment thesis, where am I going to be wrong? Where am I going to cut my losses short? Because one must always assume that you can be wrong at any given point in the market, whether it's your day-to-day trade or whether it's your larger investment thesis. That is how you become a better trader or a better investor. So these are questions you got to ask yourself. I don't have the answers for it. You guys know very well what I'm doing in the market, right? But if you want to DCA down into these altcoins, these are definitely important questions you got to ask. Okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, even on the monthly candles, right? A lot of these monthly candles for most of these altcoins don't really look that great. Now, from Solana perspective, okay, once again, kind of like Ethereum, right? Inside bar. But majority of the altcoins, they kind of look like crap on a monthly basis. Very, very few of them. Very few of them have a decent looking monthly candle or a quarterly candle. Right? Rune. I mean, Rune was such a promising project. And by the way, right, like I discussed earlier in the video, the idea about paper gains. Let me give you a perfect example of how paper gains looks like. Okay, so here is Matic, very promising network. I understand that there's a lot going on Matic, and it's a great project, right? I'm a big fan of Matic myself. Matic was in an accumulation range for almost 2 years or a year and a half. And then basically from the beginning of January, right? So let's do the 1st of January, because from here, Matic is up currently 6,000%. 6,000%. That's a lot. So basically anyone who's been in Matic from the beginning of the year till now is in profit. Now, what typically happens in markets is, from a year-to-date perspective, in a fiscal year perspective, right? What the market will try to do is try to erase those paper gains from this point all the way up. How much can price drag out a lot of these people who are currently in profit and weed them out of the market? Whether that's Matic, Ethereum, Solana, Rune, Sushi, any of these altcoin projects, right? That is something that I'm really, really wanting to happen, because if that happens, then you know that there's going to be a full-blown capitulation coming in the market. And that's where you want to ideally be a buyer. The absolute bloodshed that you may see in the market is typically the point where you may want to enter. Maybe that's happened already, but the volumes do not indicate that. This does not look like capitulation to me. But maybe capitulation doesn't need to happen. Maybe from here, we're just doing what we did over the last, DeFi summer. You guys remember the last DeFi summer, right? The last DeFi summer was something like this. Here's Solana, for example, right? Solana went from a high of $5, went to a low of about $1. It was down 78%. And that was over the span of how much? From this high to this low, it was about 115 days, right? Where are we currently in that time span? We are just 44 days in, 43 days in. So if we take out, extrapolate in a similar manner, where does that take us? Somewhere around September. I talked about in our Advantage videos that somewhere around end of Q3, beginning of Q4, I'm hoping that the market weeds out enough participants, and then we start our next big leg up, going into the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022. This sell-off, if it happens like this in summer of 2020, the DeFi summer, that would be great, because another couple months of just, potential retracement downside could bring a lot of these projects down much, much further. And then you might get that capitulation. All right. And then we get to ride that big leg up. That's what I'm looking forward to. Any questions so far? So again, I don't want to sound too bearish, right? I understand that the market is down a lot. I get it. We're down 50, 60, 70% on prices. But see, the argument that I don't like from people is, well, we're already down 60 and 70%. How much more pain could you want? Well, just because we're down, 50, 60% doesn't mean that from here, we cannot drop another 50%. which would drag prices for something like Solana down to $16, or would take something like Ethereum back towards, $1,200 or something. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's not really the best argument to say that, well, we've sold off enough already, so maybe this has to be the bottom. That's kind of a terrible argument, because anyone who's lived through any bear market, whether it be US equities or the 2018 and 19 bear market in altcoins, you just knew that just because something dropped 50% doesn't mean it can't drop another 50%. Okay, any questions I can answer so far? I want to check out Ethereum on the quarterly candle basis. Let's check this out. So ETH looked a lot worse a few days back, but this is still not the best looking candle, right? What you have is, first of all, big bullish candle, huge sort of, potential reversal gravestone doji candle with visibly lesser volume, right? So in conditions like this, especially on a high time frame like the quarterly, it kind of tells you that we might be in the midst of a potential reversal or another couple of months of retracement, in which case it wouldn't really be the worst thing for Ethereum to retrace, one more quarter. And like I said, I would absolutely love for Ethereum to come back towards, these key high levels right here around $1,200 to $1,400. I don't know if I'll get it, but I would absolutely love to bid that. Are there any questions, something that you guys are working on, dealing with, trying to hedge, de-risk, thinking about positions that you're wanting to get into, right? We're in a new quarter. You could start setting up your plans for the rest of the quarter right now. I know I'm doing that, right? One of the things that we're doing in the Advantage side, you guys know very well, is that Bradley has been writing these papers for us, right? I'm making sure that we put out great new articles, new papers, new research and investment thesis papers, so we know what the projects are on the landscape for investing for the next bull run, one of which is Mina protocol. You can check this out in the DeFi analysis section, right? It's also on our Medium page. Read about it, learn about it, and then ask yourself, could this be a project that you want to be a part of? Could this be one of the investments that you want to get involved in? Again, do your own research, not investment advice, right? I'm very interested in Mina. The other project that I'm really interested in, that I'm doing a whole lot of research on, is Curve, right? Curve is this whole DAO phenomenon that's coming up once again, like it did in 2016 and 17, is coming back very strongly. And I'm wondering why. Why is it that something that did not go so well in terms of governance and DAOs back in 2016 and 17 is having a resurgence now? This Curve project, which has now, a DAO style governance, right? I'm wondering if this is going to be one of the leaders of the DAO space. So Curve is another token that I'm doing a lot of research on. Bradley should be posting an article about Curve DAO in the next 24 hours. Again, available for Advantage members. So what you can do right now is start doing research, right? All these research pieces that we're going to put out for Advantage members, just read all of them. I'm very happy to share some of the resources that I'm utilizing, the research pieces that I'm utilizing or creating with you guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Awesome. Nothing else on my Twitter feed. Maybe check this out. I thought this was kind of cool, right? Like this was about the AVAX avalanche. I put out a research piece on this as well a couple months back. I thought this was kind of cool. So make sure y'all check it out. This tweet thread, it's on my Twitter feed. All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Y'all take care, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers.